Hey, what's going on, guys? Wolf here. Today is week 4 of the TCL. This week we're going against Renny of the Six Island Magikarps. He is a newcomer to the league this season, just like me. I will be honest, I think he kind of slipped under the radar in terms of how good he would be in the league. When I faced Grant originally, back in, I believe, week 2, I remember saying that he was going to be one of my toughest matchups. Uh, while Grant is very tough, I think Rennie's actually even tougher. His team is very good, very fast, very hard hitting. He's got things like Manphy, as you see on the screen. Got Raikou, Mega Aerodactyl, Hydreigon, Metagross, solid defensive threats and things like Tangrowth, Cofagrigus, Prankster support with Liepard, Ditto to stop setup sweepers. He's got a lot of tools in his arsenal, and he's got the play skill to back it up. He's very good at battling. From the battles that I've not only watched in league, but outside of league in his showdown videos. So he's definitely somebody to watch out for. I believe in this league he's never lost more than 2 Pokemon in a match so far, which is just a testament to how well he team builds and how well he plays. So, that being said, I believe this matchup's going to be tough for us, but we have a couple things in our favor. One of those things is the fact that Mamoswine just eats him up. He's got so many things that are either 4 times weak to ice or 2 times weak to ice, or things that don't want to switch into Earthquake like Raikou. Even Manphy takes a decent amount of damage if it's not bulky on the switch. So we do have a Life Orb set. We're running a little bit more offensive Mamoswine this week to help facilitate getting that offensive pressure going against him, because again, Ice Shard, even Ice Shard being only 40 base power, 60 after stab, definitely does a ton of damage to his team. Just beats the crap out of Garchomp, beats up Hydreigon, beats up, let's see, Mega Aerodactyl, Tangrowth even doesn't want to switch into it. Earthquake handles Raikou. We do have Icicle Crash for the few things that we plan on outspeeding. Things like Tangrowth will definitely outspeed. Metagross will outspeed with our current EVs for Earthquake. We are running 176 with a Jolly Nature. That'll allow us to hit a little bit harder. Being able to catch off Metagross, who only hits 262 speed with with a Jolly Nature. Rest in attack and HP. Our 4th move will be Stealth Rock, simply because being a 50-50 matchup and being a tough opponent that Renny is, assuming that I'm on point and I'm not screwing things up too badly, I'm expecting a ton of switches, which means having my rocks up and winning the Hazard War is going to help me a lot. So, Mamoswine is going to be one of our main offensive threats. The other main offensive threats are going to be Scrafty and Infernape. Scrafty, we're running a Dragon Dance set, which has been catching the league kind of on the back foot up until this point. I don't think it's going to catch Renny necessarily off guard, but the Dragon Dance is going to help with the speed because I don't have the bulk to handle a lot of his coverage moves, and I want to get that +1 speed to outspeed things like Manphy and stuff. Because with our current speed EVs, +1 will put us at 330. Timid Manphy only hits 328. There's also Hydreigon, who only hits 324 with a Timid Nature, barring a Scarf. So we're definitely got the speed to be able to take on any of those threats after a +1. We do have Intimidate to switch into some of these physical threats, not necessarily Metagross, because of course Clear Body, but things like Garchomp, Mega Aerodactyl, even Tangrowth, really, because Tangrowth is probably going to have a lot of physical moves. Poliwrath. So, a few things in our favor with Intimidate over something like Moxie. We are running Substitute with our Dragon Dance set, simply because we don't necessarily need a 3rd coverage move, but we do want something to block Ditto if we set up. For those of you who don't know, Imposter Ditto, the Imposter ability is blocked if you have a Substitute out, and it'll just come out as a regular old Ditto. So we do have that in our favor. Other than that, we're running just standard stab moves, Knock Off and Drain Punch, which hit pretty much everything on his team, at least neutrally, barring Aromatisse. And Aromatisse, I honestly don't expect him to bring for the same reason as I don't expect him to bring Manphy, and I'll go over that in a minute. Now, alongside Scrafty, we are running Infernape, also with Substitute. Substitute on him is mostly just because I don't need a fourth coverage move. Gunk Shot, Earthquake, and Close Combat have enough coverage on their own to hit everything on his team at least neutrally, if not most of them super effectively. We do run Gunk Shot for Aromatisse, as well as Tangrowth, because we don't have a fire type attack, so we need something to handle Tangrowth. We are running Earthquake for things like Metagross, as well as Close Combat for things like Hydreigon, just to hit a lot of other threats at neutral effectiveness. Ability is irrelevant, simply because Iron Fist doesn't pump any of our moves, but we're not running a fire type move for Blaze, so we're just going to be the Iron Fist this week. Life Orb variant for that extra attack power, kind of a wall breaking set. Speed, just like Scrafty, we wanted to hit that 330 benchmark to outspeed Manphy, outspeed Hydreigon. We do have rest and attack and HP, as we usually tend to like to do. So those are our main offensive threats. Between Mamoswine, Scrafty, and Infernape, I can put an exceptional amount of pressure on everything on his team. The problem is that he has a lot of really hard hitting wall breakers, things like Hydreigon, Manphy, stuff like that. So we have to rely on our defensive threats to stay alive long enough to wear those down for our offensive threats to clean them up. So premier defensive threat number 1 will be Venusaur. Now, as I mentioned before, I don't think he'll be bringing Manphy or Aromatisse, and Venusaur is the main reason why. Venusaur acts as a pretty solid check, if not outright counter, depending on their moveset, to both of those Pokemon. Manphy can pretty much only touch this thing after like a +6 or a Psychic. And realistically, if he brings Manphy, knowing I have Venusaur, I know he'll have Psychic. And if he has Psychic, Scrafty becomes an easy switch in. So, Aromatisse falls on the same problem. Can't really touch it with Moonblast. It does have access to things like Trick Room and stuff, but Sludge Bomb does so much damage to it because it generally likes to be a physical Aromatisse. It could be a specially defensive one, but if it is a specially defensive one, it's very weak physically, and things like Mamoswine or Infernape can easily pick it off. Standard defensive Venusaur. We are running Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Leech Seed, and Synthesis. As you guys know, I like running Knockoff on Venusaur if I suspect he might have a Psychic type or something like a Cofagrigus, like a bulky Ghost type or a bulky Psychic type. He does have Cofagrigus, he does have Metagross, things like that could switch in. But the problem is that Knockoff doesn't really touch Cofagrigus, and Metagross with Zen Headbutt does just under 50% damage to us. So our game plan for Metagross and stuff like that is simply to Leech Seed a threat and then just Synthesis stall them out until they die. Because essentially with Metagross barring a crit, Zen Headbutt to this set only does something like 44 to 52%. So between Leech Seed and Synthesis, we can definitely 100% stall it out barring a crit. Giga Drain, of course, alongside neutral coverage for things like Cofagrigus, who's going to be physically defensive, not specially defensive, as well as just the odd switch in, things like Liepard take a lot from Giga Drain. Manphy, of course, takes a lot from Giga Drain. Poliwrath takes a lot from Giga Drain, stuff like that. So good grass coverage for our team. Our second defensive threat is going to be Vaporeon. Now you notice that this is also physically defensive and not specially defensive. At first I did run this specially defensive to complement Venusaur a lot better, get better switch-ins to things like Hydreigon and stuff. it's possible that I should be running specially defensive, but I like the option of being able to run physically defensive and bolster its defenses a little bit better, considering that its base defense is only 60, where its special defense is 95, which is passable. Being physically defensive also allows me to wall things like Metagross a lot easier, so I can switch into Metagross a ton easier. Barring, of course, Thunder Punch, but Thunder Punch is easily scouted for with Venusaur or Mamoswine. We are not running Scald on this, though, even though we are intending to take on physical threats, simply because nothing is hit on his team super effectively with Scald except for Mega Aerodactyl, and Mega Aerodactyl takes more damage from Ice Beam anyway, so it's mostly irrelevant. So we're just running Ice Beam as an offensive move. We are really trying to hammer home the fact that he has a tremendous ice weakness. Now, if we can win the Hazard War, things like Roar alongside Wish can just keep wishing up and just kind of hazard stacking the damage with Roar constantly shifting him out. Then we have Heal Bell, of course, for the Cleric team support to complement Wish. The ability of Water Absorb probably won't come into play unless he brings something like Poliwrath or something super crazy, like Surf on Hydreigon or something like that. Other than that, Water Absorb is just kind of incidental coverage. It's going to be better than Hydration because I have Heal Bell. So it may come in play, it may not, I don't know. Leftovers, of course, for recovery on the item. Our sixth and final member is Rotom Fan. I'm getting quite fond of this guy simply because, just like the other Rotom forms, with some defensive investment, he's very bulky. He has access to Thunder Wave and Will-O-Wisp. And being a flying type with Levitate, even though some things have Mold Breaker, not necessarily on his team, but being a flying type helps negate the fact that Mold Breaker makes him still not weak to Earthquake. So, definitely here to spread status. Get those fast Thunder Waves off on things like Hydreigon. Get the Will-O-Wisp off on Metagross. Be able to get additional Thunder Wave and Will-O-Wisp support on things like Mega Aerodactyl, who we can actually tank a Stone Edge from, even at maximum investment, because of our 107 base defenses alongside our 252 health. Mega Aerodactyl cannot one-shot this barring a crit, which means we will have the opportunity to get that Will-O-Wisp off or that Thunder Wave off and completely lock it down. We also have incidental coverage against things like Liepard. This is an excellent Liepard switch in because Thunder Wave doesn't touch us, and Thunderbolt pretty much knocks it right out. Liepard's very fragile. And I expect him to bring Liepard simply because if I was playing his team, I would also bring Liepard. Prankster Thunder Waves are very hard to beat in this format. Prankster status moves in general are very hard to beat in this format, so you need to have defensive switch-ins that can answer those. And Mamoswine and Rotom are basically ours this week. Now, like I said earlier, his team is definitely really good, and he is an exceptionally good battler, so I don't expect this to be an easy fight this week. Assuming our predictions are on point, this is going to be definitely a 50-50 matchup for sure. So you're definitely going to want to check it out, which will be released alongside this team builder. Definitely check out my opponent's team builder and videos as well. He makes very good videos, especially in his league videos. His league videos are very educational, just like mine are, and he's definitely somebody to watch out for in the league. So I would keep an eye on him. Come back for the match play and root for us, as I always appreciate, and I will see you guys in a little bit.